David here with Figboot on Pens, back again today with a very special fountain pen review. What I have for you today is the 5th in Montblanc's Great Masters series. They seem to be releasing a new pen in this series about every 2 years. And this pen is the Montblanc James Purdey & Sons. What I'm going to do today is go over the parts and features of this remarkable pen, talk about what I care for and what I don't care for. I'll show some measurements, size comparisons, and provide a writing sample. Thanks go out to Joost from Appelboom for providing this pen on loan for review. Appelboom is a retailer based out of the Netherlands, and they have an online shop as well as a nice brick and mortar store. Here's what the outside of the Appelboom retail store looks like. It's in Leuren, which is just outside of Amsterdam. It's a pretty cool looking street. There's a swimsuit sale going on right next door, and a bunch of people hanging out at the Mauve restaurant and bar. I checked out their menu. It looks pretty nice. The Montblanc pen arrives in this box. It's made out of walnut. On the front, there's a flower motif, which we'll see again. It does come with a very nice use and care guide, which contains a great deal of information about this special edition pen. And the picture on the front here is Purdey & Sons building in London. Purdey & Sons is a British gun maker based in London, which has been around for over 200 years, specializing in high-end bespoke sporting shotguns and rifles. They are well known for the quality, craftsmanship, and beauty of their firearms. A typical one of their shotguns or rifles will take 600 to 700 craft hours to create, and they have a waiting list of about 2 years. I was looking into the price of some of their models on a prominent firearms website selling secondhand guns, and the least expensive model offered was $35,000, with the most expensive listing being $150,000. So yes, Purdey makes some very high-end products. It's interesting, the parent company of Purdey & Sons is the Richemont Group, which is also the parent company of such other luxury brands like Cartier, Ralph Lauren, and interestingly enough, Montblanc. So, inside this box, we have a pen. It's just kind of nestled in here. And this is the Montblanc James Purdey & Sons. The key essence of a Purdey gun is a finish to an incredible standard of quality and an enormous amount of care in all stages of production. And this pen lives up to that reputation. It has a classic torpedo shape. And I kind of want to discuss the basic parts of the pen first before talking about the highlight of the pen, which is the wood and inlay work on both the cap and the barrel. Let's start by taking a look at the cap. On the end is the Montblanc snow cap. It's mother of pearl and onyx. The pearlescent look really adds some depth to this emblem. This transitions into the finial, which, like all of the trim on this pen, is coated in ruthenium. Now, there's a difference between something coated in metal and plated in metal. While both processes actually provide a second outer skin to a material, with plating, there's an electric current that's used to deposit metal onto the exterior of another metal. Coating process pretty much applies a powder to a surface and then it's cured using heat. That's the most generic terms, but there's a difference between the two. Then we have the clip, which is ruthenium coated and in the traditional Montblanc style. Over the years, there have been different things stamped on the underside of Montblanc clips. Underneath this particular clip, it says made in Germany and metal. Then we have the cap band, which is stamped with Montblanc and Meisterstück, which translates to masterpiece in English. There is a very small step down to the barrel, which slowly tapers down to the piston knob, which contains a bit of surprise. It begins with a wavy ring, which serves to help you gain a grip on this slick metal piston knob, which is helpful. And then the end of the knob is rounded. The surprise is if you engage this piston knob and raise it away from the barrel, you'll find the serial number for the pen hidden inside. It took me forever to find the serial number on this pen. I hadn't seen it hidden on a Montblanc like that before. Also underneath is printed the word metal. I just thought that was interesting. I know it's kind of hard to see here in this picture, but it says metal. Okay, let's get to the meat of this pen. The cap and barrel are both Turkish walnut with engraved Purdey checkering and stamped metal inlay. Every walnut tree is different, so each pen is going to have variances in color and depth and grain. The traditional Purdey hand checkering is a texture created by hand and not by machine. The checkering gives the pen a distinctive look as well as serving a practical purpose of helping you maintain a better grip on the pen. And it's the design that they use on the stocks of their weapons. There is this pointed metal inlay which is mirrored on both the cap and the barrel on both sides of the pen, and these are inspired by Purdey's traditional rose and scroll pattern. On Purdey weapons, all of this work is hand engraved. And while the marketing material for this pen doesn't necessarily state that it's hand engraved from what I could see, I believe these are hand engraved as well. With the loop, I could see small differences between each inlay. So either they're done by hand or were produced by 4 different stamps. Either way, they look pretty cool. On inlaid elements of a pen like this, I like to take a closer look at the tolerances and the gaps between the material of the inlay to see how precise the work was done. The inlay work on this pen is exquisite. The tolerances are extremely low, and the gaps between the wood and the inlay are consistent. On the barrel is a gold oval with the flower motif seen on the front of the box. This cap twists off, and this is something I actually really enjoy about the pen. If you're familiar with pens such as the Platinum 3776, you're familiar with the capping experience. You cap the pen, and after a few turns, then their slip and seal mechanism engages, and the last half turn or so is a bit tighter. This pen does not have an inner cap like the Platinum, but you twist for a couple of turns and then it becomes a little bit tighter to turn. But the smoothness of this capping is just sublime. It's one of the most pleasurable capping mechanisms I've experienced on a twist cap. It's very well done. And I find myself just playing with this and opening and closing this cap just because it feels so nice. There is only one cap thread, so all of the inlaid elements line up perfectly each time, and the points of the checkering pattern align as well, which is nice. But if you want to use this pen, you'll actually need to take off the cap, and what we have inside is an 18 karat gold ruthenium coated nib stamped with the Purdey rose and scroll pattern. It also has 2019, the year this pen was manufactured. And then here's a look at the plastic feed. The section begins with a raised ring and is fairly straight. There's only about 0.5 millimeter from the beginning to end of the section. And then the section transitions into the cap threads, and then a slight step up to this angled piece, and it kind of stair steps its way up to the barrel. I typically don't care much for slick metal sections, but I can maintain a decent grip on this one. And I like the design on the back end of this section. The threads aren't sharp, so it's not uncomfortable if your grip rests on them. And the angle part here kind of serves to lessen the elevation difference between the section and the barrel. Much better than if there was just like a steep step up, which on this pen I think would look a little bit awkward. This pen does not post, which is fine. The barrel is heavy enough, and you don't want this heavy cap on the end as well. I do like the overall weight and feel of this pen though. It does feel comfortable in the hand, and I like the feeling of the wood against the side of my palm as well. As I mentioned before, this is a piston filler, and I find the piston knob easy to operate, and the mechanism feels very solid. The Montblanc James Purdey & Sons is a premium fountain pen, and it comes at a premium price, which is a little under $2,900. It is a beautiful, elegant, exquisitely finished and fitted fountain pen, and it lives up to the standards set by both Montblanc with their high-end pens and Purdey & Sons with their weapons. This pen has a stylish elegance about it, and I'm not really into guns or the gun community, but I can still appreciate this pen. I've said this many times before, but when it comes to high-end pens, you are buying more than a pen, and that is especially true for this one. For some luxury pens, you kind of need to strain to see the value, but I didn't have this issue at all with this pen. The moment I picked it up and I felt it in my hand, I could feel the value. My brain kind of just said, oh, okay, I get it. It's still very expensive, but in regard to value, I don't feel it's out of line for what you receive with this extraordinary pen. Thanks again. Go out to Applebaum for the loan of this pen. I appreciate it. Jost actually lent me a number of very nice Montblanc pens to review, so you will be seeing more Montblanc reviews in the very near future. And I'll actually share some of them during the size comparisons. So now it is time for some measurements, the aforementioned size comparisons, and a writing sample. So here we go with some size comparisons for the Montblanc Purdey and Sons. Here it is with a Montblanc 149. Then here it is with a Montblanc 146. And then I mentioned that I'd share some of the other pens that I have coming up here for review, some other Montblancs. I have a 2019 Starwalker. Then three other special pens I have coming up is I have a James Dean, I have a Marilyn Monroe, and then I have a Bonheur Nuit. I believe that's how that's pronounced. So here we have the Montblanc. And this is the James Purdey and Sons. This is a medium 18 karat gold nib, and the ink that I'm using here today is Montblanc Toffee Brown. This is what the ink looks like. It's one of my favorite browns. I just think it's a real solid color. This is in comparison to the Faber-Castell Honey Nut brown, or actually Hazelnut brown, excuse me. And then also the Monteverde brown, which is another solid brown. This is what their 60 milliliter bottle looks like. It is also known as the shoe because it resembles a shoe. They also sell a limited edition ink that pairs with this pen, which is scented like whiskey. I don't have any of that, but I have heard that it does indeed smell like whiskey. So in regard to the rest of the writing sample, this is a very smooth writing experience. This nib is very nice, very pleasurable. I do compare it to the Montblanc Hitchcock nib that I have. Very, very nice. You can get a little bit of flex out of here. In regard to ink flow, it's decent. In regard to some reverse writing, it's a little sharp, but it does lay down a nice extra fine line. And in regard to some fast writing, there's no issue with the feed whatsoever. So here is the Montblanc James Purdey and Sons. This is a pen that really won me over. Like I had mentioned, I'm not necessarily into the gun culture and appreciate guns as much as some folks do, but I do appreciate this pen, and I think that the craftsmanship behind it is amazing, and it has a very interesting look and feel to it, and I do care for this pen a great deal. So until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.